Blast off, riding through the stars with buying candy bars. I'm butchering the start to Jimmy Neutron. Welcome to Noted. This is Daniel, and I am your host. With me is Eric.
Hello.
And today we're going to be watching Hacksaw Ridge. No,
Incorrect.
Wrong one. Shawshank Redemption. I don't know why my brain can't separate those two movies.
I don't either.
They're very different movies. But yeah, Shawshank Redemption. It is critically acclaimed, has a 91% Rotten Tomatoes, a 9.3 on IMDb. If you've never heard of it, you're living under a rock.
Like Daniel.
Hey, I heard of the movie, okay?
Yeah,
I just never watched it, but I at least heard of it, okay? It's liked by 96% of Google users, if that lets you know anything.
96?
Okay, I now absolutely love this movie.
Why?
The release, I like this movie already, but I'm reading Wikipedia facts about it, and now I absolutely love it. It was released in 1994 in September, on the 22nd. That's right. This was released on my birthday. I mean, 5 years before I was born, but on the 22nd, my birthday.
On my birthday.
On my birthday 5 years early, but still, I rarely see things happen on the 22nd of September, and it makes me happy when I do.
Nice. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. This is a proud moment for me. But you had already seen this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had mentioned in one of our previous podcasts when we had one of our many everlasting debates about you trying to tell me I've never seen anything, and you brought this movie up, and I went and saw my aunt a couple weeks later, and she listens to our podcast. Hey, Aunt. Hey, Auntie.
Arrow.
And she was like, "You've never seen this movie?" And she loves this movie, and she owns it on DVD. And she's like, "You have to watch this next time you're over while we're watching it." I was up there this weekend, and I totally forgot about it. And she's like, "Do you want to watch this?" I'm like, "Sure." So we went to the casino, then we watched this.
Hey.
And I knew it was critically acclaimed, but even some critically acclaimed movies, I just don't necessarily understand,
why they're amazing.
Yeah. Or it just wasn't my cup of tea. But this I did really love. And it was a weird mix of actors that, obviously Morgan Freeman is amazing. Uber talented as an actor. I didn't realize that Clancy Brown was in this. And honestly, every movie he's in, I hate him. Not because, he's, a bad actor, but he just always plays villains.
Yeah.
And he plays them so well. So you just hate him in every movie he's in. But it was enjoyable to see him. He played the prison captain. Bob Gooten was really good. He played a great warden. There's obviously Tim Robbins was in this movie, which he did a phenomenal job. And comparative to the last Tim Robbins movie I saw, which was what was the name of that movie? Yeah, War of the Worlds. Very juxtaposed to the way he is in that movie comparative to this one. And then there was a handful of really talented actors in this.
Yeah, I love it.
I really enjoyed it. Especially for a prison movie. There's a lot of prison movies out there. And they're all I don't know. I'm kind of burnt out on the prison genre. After watching Prison Break, that TV show, did you ever watch Prison Break?
No.
Oh, dude, it's a long show. They break out 5 prisons.
Yeah,
it gets old.
I think that's the biggest reason why I never watched it, because I was like, that kind of makes no sense.
Yeah. I feel like what I really enjoyed about this movie is I never expected. So the main character is played by Tim Robbins, Andy Dufresne. And the narrator is Morgan Freeman, because how can you
Morgan
not have
Freeman.
Morgan Freeman narrate
Narrate.
your movie?
Yep.
If he's in it, he has to be the narrator. And he
World War Z,
plays
buddy.
yeah. Never seen that movie.
Not
And I
World War
don't.
Z. Sorry, War of the Worlds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He narrated
And
it as
then
well. Sorry, go ahead.
Morgan Freeman plays the
Red.
the co-main character, I guess you could say, Red. Like, obviously the movie's centered around Andy the whole time, but Red is kind of like the perspective the audience sees through Red's eyes, as we see like Andy from the outside, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I would
It's
say we don't.
Andy's story, but it's Red's like book, pretty much.
Yeah, it's Andy's story through Red's eyes, pretty much his
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah.
But the whole time, like, I didn't think Andy was going to escape the whole time. The whole movie, I thought he was going to end his life and die in the prison. And if he did leave the prison, it was because he got released on like parole or something.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to escape. And what I love about it is his character is constantly like a topic that he's constantly holding out for hope, because the topic they like tackle in this movie is being institutionalized.
Yep.
And many of the older gentlemen, like Brooks, who was someone who worked in the library,
In there for a lifetime.
yeah, he was there for 50 plus years, I think they said.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And that's honestly like one of the saddest parts of the movie.
Oh, is
Is-
when they release him, and he's like,
Yeah.
this world moves a lot faster than inside, and I almost got hit by a car today.
Yeah, when I was
My
on the
hands
outside,
hurt because
there
my
wasn't that many.
manager doesn't
Yep.
let me take a break, and
Mhm.
I've been thinking about getting back into the joint, boys. I thought about robbing the place that I work, maybe kill my manager for a bonus.
Yeah,
I-
that part made me giggle.
Yeah, like he still
Uh,
has a sense of humor, even though that's it's literally his suicide note. It's really sad.
Oh, yeah, that is his suicide letter. And I think the other part that broke my heart is they show him early in the movie harboring a crow,
A baby crow, yes.
and then
Jake.
Jake, and like when he leaves the prison, he lets Jake go. And in his letter, his suicide note, he talks about how he goes to the park once in a while to feed the birds, hoping Jake will show up, but he never does. It's
Yeah.
like, it's so sad. And then, unfortunately, because he's put in a halfway house for like reformed convicts and cons, and he ends up killing himself in the room he's in.
Yeah.
He hangs himself. It's really sad. And then it's juxtaposed with
Red
what
getting
is the
out.
no, well, that's later in the movie. Yeah, Red gets put in the same job in the same halfway house as him,
Yeah.
and he thinks about killing himself and going back to jail and throwing himself back in the joint. And the only
Yeah.
reason why he doesn't is because of a promise he made to Andy.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say the next scene after Brooks kills himself, something good happens to Andy, or something funny happens. I forgot what it was.
That's rough.
Yeah. But I think one of my favorite lines is when Red is talking to Andy in the library, and Andy's explaining to him how he's pretty much money laundering for the
yeah.
warden.
Yeah.
And he's like, Red, it took me going to prison to become a crook. He's like,
Yeah.
I was straight as an arrow on the outside, and it took me going to prison to become a crook.
Yeah. It's oddly a super like wholesome kind of like it's not a wholesome movie by any means, but it has its moments of like humanity.
Yeah. I think obviously it's like it's based off of a Stephen King novel. And so it's not like about anyone's real life, so in that way it's fictional, and so it's like romanticizing some things for sure. But I feel like for the most part this movie it's more reality than romance, you know what I mean? Obviously the end where Tim escapes and Red gets let out, and then they meet up in Mexico at the end of the movie. Like that's a bit romanticized, but everything else in it is pretty like I feel like it's really well balanced in realism in the fact that life is really tragic and brutal and sad, and then also juxtaposed with the fact it's also like has its beauty and its bright moments.
Yes, sir.
Um, I in the when so pretty much Andy gets thrown in jail for allegedly murdering his wife
Mm.
and her lover because she cheats on him with a famous golf pro. And he in the like one of the first scenes of the movie, he's drunk drinking with a gun in his car, and then it cuts to him in uh the courtroom saying that he threw his gun into the river, which they found his gun in the river later. But they saw his prints pretty much everywhere else, the broken bottle bourbon and all that. And they pretty much just assumed did he did it.
Yeah.
And he got convicted for 2 life sentences because of it. So what did you think about it? Did you think that he committed the crime the first time you watched it? Like, did you think he was innocent? Did you think they were like really like where did you sit on that?
Um when I mean like I don't know. I just kind of watch it. I didn't I thought that he did it because that's what the story is about, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also the person that says that they didn't. You know, like he's being accused of it and he's saying I didn't do it. I'm an innocent man. I'm also going to believe him, but I'm also going to believe the evidence that the movie is giving me, which is saying that
Yeah.
he did do it.
Yeah.
So, this movie is one of those movies where I was just along for the ride kind of thing because this movie for me is like it's just a really good story, and like it
It
didn't make me
is.
think. Like it was telling me a really good story, and I didn't want to think while I was watching it. Like I wasn't
Mm.
trying to figure anything out about it. Like I was just letting it be told to me because
Yeah.
it's a good story of just 30 years or 20 years in prison. Right? That's
Yeah.
how long
I
Andy
think
is in
it was 20
20,
years,
yeah,
yeah.
19 20 years.
And I can agree with that. I feel like the only two things I really thought about, and it was more in the beginning of the movie, and then I kind of forgot about them until they like brought it up to you,
Yeah.
was whether he was going to escape. Like they mentioned it. He asks Red. So Red, Morgan Freeman's character, is the guy that can get you something.
Yeah.
And he asks him for a rock hammer. And he asks him what that is, and he's like, "It's a mini pickaxe." And he's like, "Why would I give that to you? You're gonna kill someone with it, or you're gonna try to escape." And he pretty much tells him, "I won't kill them with it." And he's like, "Okay, well, if you do, you deny it, and if you rat me out, we never do business again."
Yeah.
And then after that, he laughs when he says, "How do I know you're not gonna escape with it?" And it's a tiny little, and he's like, you'll know why once you see it, and it's tiny. It's like it would take him years upon years upon years upon years, maybe like 20 years, to escape with it. And that's how he eventually escapes is with
Well,
it. And when
yeah,
they
he in the movie he says it would take a man 600 years to tunnel through the ground with this.
Yeah. And when they showed that, I was like, that's intriguing. I wonder if he will try to escape with it. But then they kind of abandoned the escape plot line. The whole,
Yeah.
like, they didn't ever readdress it, which I really enjoyed. I feel like a lot of prison movies, they spend the whole time it being about them trying to escape
Yeah.
and the plan to how to escape. But it's not really about, like, the prison experience. Where this movie, like you said, it was telling a story. It was more of an experience of him trying to better himself and better the people around him and just make prison bearable, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And just try to survive. And like what
He,
he can do for the people around him, like starting the library and helping people fill out their W-2s and
Yeah,
all that jazz.
exactly. And so like you you tend to forget about that plot line they pretty much foreshadowed in like the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and he
And
he never says that he's ever going to try to escape.
never. They
Yeah,
never bring it
like
up.
he asks for the rock chisel thing, like the rock
The
hammer,
rock hammer?
just because he likes rocks.
Yeah, he's a rock nut.
Yeah, like you can tell like, oh well, he's probably gonna try to escape somehow with this thing, but it's never addressed again.
Which I think was super smart because
Oh
I
yeah,
thought he was, when they showed it that and they made that comment, I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to use that to escape. Then I totally forgot about that plot point.
yeah,
And when it came to him, when they set it up for him to escape, I thought he was just going to kill himself.
yeah.
Everyone thought he did.
One of my favorite scenes is when the warden goes into his room to do like the room sweeps and like room checks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy's reading his Bible. And at the very end you find out that that's where he kept the rock chisel, was in the Bible, and the warden like almost walked away with Andy's Bible. And he's like, "Oh, I almost forgot. I almost took your book." And so he hands him back, and I was just like, the irony. The man just gave him his key.
Oh, 100%. And not only did he hand him back the book, but he also says salvation is within, son.
Yeah, and then hands him the book.
Yup. And when I was watching it with my aunt, he said that line, and she's like, "Remember that." I'm like, okay, super confused.
Sick, thanks.
Super but it was specifically remember that line, salvation is within.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, okay, is he like gonna like
Is he gonna find God?
yeah, that's kind of what I thought she was hinting at, but no, it was because he used the book to hide his rock hammer.
Yeah.
Which was genius too, because
another thing that I'm gonna bring up just real quick.
Yeah.
They never found the gun, just so you know.
Yeah, no, the gun that was actually used to murder the husband, the lover and wife. Yeah, they never found that gun. They found his gun in the river.
No, they never found his gun.
Yeah, no, it was set in the courtroom.
No, they never found it.
I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking it up right now. I've already looked it up. Because he threw it into the river.
Yeah, and they said
they sweeped it for days and they could never find it, and it was convenient for him for them to not find it. And then he said, "No, it's an inconvenience for you guys to not find it."
Because they said the murder weapon was never recovered, but from my understanding, they found his gun, but it didn't. Oh, I guess no, that would have absolved them of the crime if they found his gun and then it didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, you're right. But yeah, so that is a great line too, though. Like, no, it's an inconvenience that you never found it.
Mm-hmm.
And a common theme with Andy is like Red describes it how like he kind of walks in a way where he's carefree and like he puts up these shields where no one can touch him, and you can see it in his demeanor, like. He's not optimistically naive, but he's just optimistically realistic.
Yeah.
Like, he's not gonna let anyone take away his hope or take away what he finds important and what makes him happy, but he's also not a dummy.
Yeah, it's like he knows his chances kind of thing.
Yeah, and like I love how in the beginning of the movie, like I was saying, when Red gave him the rock hammer, he said, "And you better hide it because if they find it, it's gone."
And then he's like, "And then you better not say my name, or I won't even get you cigarettes or gum."
Yep. And which is intriguing considering the fact that throughout the whole movie, he doesn't hide any of his posters. He doesn't hide any of his chess pieces he makes, which is obviously he sculpted. Like, he has tons of contraband in there, but like. He never hides it, and none of the guards really ever question it.
Posters aren't contraband.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, But like they see the chess pieces, like, oh yeah, he has like rocks and stuff, and it's minor contraband, but nothing to be worried about.
I think the only thing that would count as contraband in his room when they were sweeping it was the rock paper or the sanding paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just covered up by, it's a hobby. I like to make rocks.
Yep.
And the warden, oh, what's your favorite verse in the Bible?
Yeah, and they have a verse off like Bible school.
Yeah.
But he ends
Mark
up
3:32.
he a beautiful part of the movie is, so he's being chased down by the gay clique
The sisters.
of the sisters, yeah, of the prison, and they're constantly like fighting and beating him up and like
And
attacking him
raping him.
and trying to rape him.
No, not trying. They're successful.
And raping, yeah.
They rape
Yeah.
him.
They don't show any of
No,
that.
they
but
don't.
They hint towards it.
So the
They hint
time,
towards it.
the first time that it happens, Morgan Freeman narrates it like prison isn't like a fairy tale, like this is
yeah.
real life kind of thing, and then it just like it covers all of them with like crates and stuff like that, and then that's when he says that line, and then it's like he was bruised for a couple of weeks kind of thing.
Yeah, and they just attack him
Yeah.
mercilessly and go after him, and he never like. He always fights back, and sometimes he can fight him off, and sometimes he can't.
Yeah.
And he eventually ends up befriending, not really befriending, but getting on the good side of some of the guards, because he volunteered and got to do some outdoor like shingling for one of the new buildings.
Oh, yeah, the tar.
Yeah, and he overhears one of the guards, who's Captain Hadley by Clancy Brown, complaining about how he got $35K from his
Dead brother.
from his brother, but now he's not gonna be able. He's angry because the government's gonna come down on him tax wise.
Yeah.
And dude, Andy just turns around, drops the thing, walks straight up to him.
Straight up, just like oddly possessed. I can help you get money.
And he's like, "Do you trust your wife?" It's like, dude, I know what the movie's trying to do. They're trying to set him up because he's a successful banker, for him to like make an in with them because he's the smart finance guy. But you had to, the woman, the wife murderer had to open up with, "Do you trust your wife?"
Yeah.
Like, that's how you're gonna open this up. And then he ends up nearly killing him. He convinces him to work with him, and in return, he just wants beers for the boys.
He threatens to throw him off a roof.
Yeah,
Doesn't,
he nearly kills him.
No, that's not nearly killing him.
He literally
That
had him
threatens to throw him
hanging
off
off.
a roof.
It wasn't just, "Hey, I'll throw you off a roof." It was, "I have him hanging off the edge of the roof, and the only thing holding him back is my hand gripping his shirt."
Yeah, that's not nearly like nearly killing him would be like when they beat the what they called like the fat fish dude at the very beginning. Like, that's nearly killing him, and then because the doctor was gone, he killed him. He died.
Yeah, I mean, I hear
Man
what you're
threatened
saying,
him.
but all I'm saying is, like, was he physically attacked in that situation and like on death's door? In that
No.
aspect, no. But I would say he was still nearly about to be killed, because literally one hand movement and he dies. Like, that's nearly killing him.
Sure. Sure.
But besides the point, he befriends him, and then a lot of the guards start coming to him, so then he can start doing tax forms for them, which then leads to him working for the warden directly in his office, and helps the warden start making money.
Yeah,
And
he essentially becomes a warden's bitch.
Yup. And he's telling Red his whole plan and how the warden and him do it, and he's like, "But what happens? What if you get caught?" He's like, "Oh, I won't be caught, and the warden won't be caught. This random guy will be caught." And he tells him how he made up a person.
Yeah. I pulled him from thin air.
Yeah.
Conjured him up from my mind.
He's a figment of my imagination, but he's real on paper, and he has a real birth certificate, real social security number. For all intents and purposes, he's on paper a real person and a legal citizen. But he isn't at all. And that was something that I thought was super cool, because then when he ends up escaping, he ends up walking in with that identity and taking all the money from the banks. So not only did he turn in all the books to prove that the warden was
Money
committing fraud,
laundering. Yeah.
yep, but the warden didn't even get to reap any of the long-term benefits.
No, cause he freaking shot himself in the head.
Well, yeah, that plus Andy stole all the money. So I actually thought the warden was just gonna shoot all of them, to be honest. At first, I thought he was gonna kill himself. Then he points the gun at the door, and I thought he was just gonna have like a gunfight with the cops.
Yeah, I think it was going to be a gunfight, and then one of the detectives or policemen, they were like, "Don't make this harder on yourself," and then he was like,
Yeah.
"Good advice," and then he just pops himself under the chin.
The only thing I can think about when he shot himself there is like, never shoot yourself there.
Nice.
because it might be dark, but if you shoot yourself underneath the chin like he did, you have the that angle. You could easily not actually hit the brain and just hit your eye and like blow off half of your face and like hit and destroy your eyes, but not actually fatally kill yourself. If you wanted to kill yourself like that, you need to
Daniel,
put the gun in your
advice: stop.
mouth. Yeah, no, don't.
You're
this is
digging a hole.
unimportant.
Let me give you critiques of how to properly suicide.
Yeah. You can do it better.
No.
No, I do not condone that whatsoever. Do not do that.
Yes. Don't do it.
But yeah, that was a scene.
that happened.
Wait, Mark Wahlberg was in this movie? No way.
I don't think so. And if he was an extra.
Google's saying he's in this movie. What? Mark Wahlberg. Shawshank.
Hacksaw Ridge.
What? I almost said it.
I know.
Oh, I'm so happy Tom Cruise turned down this movie. I would not want Tom Cruise in this movie. Oh well.
He's not in this movie.
Yeah, Google shows him on the cast list, but I don't know. They don't have a name for him. It's just there.
What?
And Deion Sanders is also on the cast list.
You typed in Shawshank Redemption cast on Google?
Yeah, and if you scroll to if you do show more, and then scroll to the very bottom, you'll see Mark Wahlberg there.
Maybe he's a producer.
Possibly. I think he would be. I didn't think he would be producing at that point in time in his career, but that's possible. That would make sense why he wasn't credited.
Man has money.
Fair.
You said Deion Sanders. It's Deion Anderson.
No, is it Deion Sanders?
Yeah. It's Deion.
No, it is Deion Sanders.
It's Deion Anderson.
Wait, I need to go back to that cast list and read what I saw, because it showed him in a football jersey.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Is that not Deion Sanders?
It says Deion Anderson. Right next to Dorothy Silver and James.
Hold up. Once my Google loads, once my internet works, god damn it. Fuck. God damn it. You're right.
Gosh.
I'm just misremembering everything today, aren't I?
That's okay.
But yeah, okay. Well, what's your favorite part about this movie? To sort of end, to wrap it up.
My favorite part about this movie? Here, give me 1 second. I want to see who wrote this movie.
Yeah, I don't know who did the script writing,
I
but
want to
the
see
story's by Stephen
screenplay.
King. Screenplay Stephen King, Frank Darabont.
Yeah, the writer is Stephen King. Screenplayer/writer is Frank whatever.
And Stephen King.
Yeah.
Screenplay was written by Stephen King as well, yeah.
Ooh.
Stephen King got a wide mouth.
Okay. I will say, I like this dude's movies that he helps make. Sorry, that has nothing to do with my end overall point
You're
of
good.
me liking this movie. I just wanted to know. I liked this movie simply just for the fact that there wasn't of course there is a point to it all. It's for Andy to find redemption and
Yeah.
for Red to get out of prison and stuff. Because throughout the entire movie, he's rejected and he goes into his I don't know what to call them, a meeting where he has to talk to people to see if he's been rehabilitated. And
Yeah,
he always
he
goes in
gets-
there
yeah.
with a script that's yes, I'm a changed man, God's honest truth, I'm rehabilitated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Not a danger to society.
yeah, and he always says the same thing, and it happens at the very beginning of the movie, the very middle of the movie, and then right at the end. And he gets rejected twice in a row because he goes in there saying the same script. And then at the very end of the movie, he's just kind of yeah, I don't know what that word means, and frankly, I don't give a damn. I'm this old. All I want to do is go back in time and tell my younger self to don't do stupid shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think we get to see all the things that Andy kind of taught him, or their friendship taught each other about hope and not giving up and believing that things can be done just by doing them or believing that you can do them kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a really cool thing because you see the one person who isn't innocent get out on good terms because they've done their time. And then you see the one person who is innocent break out of prison and do everything wrong and become an absolute felon. The polar opposites
That
for
is
both
true.
of them.
I never thought about that foil.
Yeah, they completely flip because Morgan Freeman at the end has become an innocent man through time spent, and Tim Robbins had always been innocent but had to become, like he said, I had to come to prison to become a crook. And that's how he got out of prison, was to, prison break himself and, steal $375,000 from a money laundering warden and,
Which
run to Mexico and have a hotel and build a boat.
Yeah, and in 1960, let's see here. I wonder what 1960. Okay.
I'd say it's about $1 million.
Yeah, because it's about $9.77 of today, $1. So if we do 9.77 times what was it? 360,000.
I think it was 375 or 370, one of the two.
We'll do 375. The man stole $3,663,750 of today's money.
Of today's money, yes.
Yeah, equivalent to what it would have been that back then.
Yeah.
Equivalent to what it would be today.
Yeah.
Kind of helps put in perspective,
A lot of money.
Oh, fuck ton of money.
And I think the black and white, like, polar opposite between them of, like, having completely opposite stories and being completely different people. One who actually did everything that happened to them, and one that had nothing to do with everything that is happening to him. It just makes me go, like, that's a good story. Like, you get two people on completely different trains going the same direction almost, and then it's just so cool. I don't know.
No, dude, I totally agree. I 1000% agree, and I never even thought of it as like them being like a foil to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, because even Red says, so Andy and him are having a conversation, and one of the first things that Red tells Andy in the beginning of the movie is every man in Shawshank is innocent. We're all innocent men. And that's like a running joke, is everyone in the prison's innocent. And Andy and him are having a conversation, and Andy knows that Red went to prison for murder.
Yeah.
Because when he asks him, and he's like, the same thing as you. And then he asks him, are you innocent? He's like, no, you know, every man in Shawshank's innocent. And then he talks to Red about it, and Red's like, I'm the only not innocent man in Shawshank.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he owns the fact that he committed that murder.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, because the whole time Andy is claiming he's innocent. And they even, halfway through the movie, or even 2/3 through the movie, a character name, was it Tommy?
Tommy
Shows
clears
up
his name.
and, yep, huh?
He clears Andy's name.
Yeah, he does,
and then he gets killed for it.
Yep, exactly. He's been in and out of prison. Andy takes him under his wing.
Sorry.
Yep, and
Tommy's so funny.
Dude, Tommy is a character.
Yeah.
And he pretty much ends up hearing about what Andy did and like goes pale because he had a cellmate who bragged about the exact crime.
Yep, and then even said, and they pinned it all on her banker husband.
Yep.
Like, literally talking about Andy.
Yeah.
And Andy
not
goes to
even
the
just...
warden, and then shit hits the fan. Warden kills Tommy.
And then
up.
throws Andy in solitary confinement for 2
months.
2 months, man.
In the size of a room probably as big as your closet. With no light. Besides
with
2 windows.
Mm-hmm.
That are to
Tiny.
hallway
Yep.
light, not outdoor
Yep.
light. Terrifying. That is terrifying. That is how people go insane.
Oh yeah, I was looking up how long does it take to go crazy in solitary confinement.
Like
Just 15 days. 15 days locked up in solitary confinement can be enough to cause permanent psychological damage.
Hey.
Which affects ranging from anxiety to paranoia to inability to form coherent thoughts.
Nice. Imagine.
Now
2
imagine,
months.
yeah, 2 months, literally quadruple that. And when he gets out of solitary confinement, he looks unhinged.
Oh yeah, I mean
And
that's practically. I won't say that that's like the end of the movie, but that's when everything starts to snowball to the end. Is after he gets out of his 2-month solitary confinement is when he has a conversation with Red, saying like I did kill my wife, like I wasn't a good husband, and for that she had to cheat, and for that is what got her killed. So therefore, like I did it, kind of thing. And then Red and him have a whole like heart-to-heart conversation. And then that's really when Andy's like, I'm getting out of here. And then rest of the movie.
It's like better get living
better start living or better start dying.
Yep, exactly is what he says, because then he starts telling Red about like his dream about when he gets out living in Mexico. And then Red's like,
go into the place that has no memory.
Yep, and Red's like telling him to stop doing it. You're living a pipe dream. You're gonna drive yourself crazy. And then he tells Red that when he gets out to go to a specific wall by a tree in a town upstate, and he'll find an obsidian rock, and underneath that rock there will be something he buried for him, and that's where he has money and a letter to Red.
Telling him to go to the same spot that they talked about.
To meet him down in Mexico. Yeah. Because when they're in prison, he tells Red to come down with him, and he's like, I'm not anything. He's like, in here, I'm a man that can get you something. Out there, you just have to go to the yellow pages, and I don't even know if I could do that for you.
Yeah.
And then when Red gets out, Red goes through the same stages that Brooks did, but the only difference is he had that message that Andy gave him to hold on to, of promise me you will go to this wall, where he proposed to his wife.
Yeah.
And Red goes there, and that's where he sees the letter and the money, and then he goes to visit Andy, and they live happily ever after.
Start a hotel business and boat people around in the Pacific.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Their stories really do foil each other well, and I do love that scene when they have that heart to heart is the beginning of the end for sure, because he looks sad. He looks hopeless to a point. And when he says that line, better get say it one more time. I can't.
Better start living or better start dying.
Yeah, when he says that, I thought, oh shit, this man's about to end it.
Yep.
Like, this man's about to kill himself. Because at that point, you through this movie, you see Andy go through a lot of different things, and at the whole movie, he has his wife's death and his accused murder of her and her lover over his head, and then he becomes
it's get busy living or get busy dying.
Okay. Well, it's better than I was gonna butcher the line, so I'm glad you jumped in either way. He has her death and her lover's death over his head the whole movie. Then he starts, like, he goes through his first 2 years, which were complete chaos and horror for him, and then he starts to become the tax guy. He gets his own library. He becomes like the librarian. He becomes the right-hand man to the warden.
Bitch.
Starts making the warden money.
Bitch.
Yeah.
He's not the right hand. He is a bitch.
No. Yeah, he has no actual power.
Yeah.
He's free labor.
Yeah.
He's a free tax thief. And
Facts.
then he helps, like, a lot of the inmates get their diplomas, which is, I think, what made Andy content with living in prison. You know, why I don't think he tried to escape at first, or he was, like, waiting, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was just, it wasn't perfect, but he was helping people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he was the closest to, like, normalcy. I think that's the correct word.
Yeah.
Like, he was a civilian in a prison life, pretty much, at this point.
Yeah, because out of everyone, he
had
lived the
his
most
old
pampered
job.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his old job inside of a prison.
And then he ends up getting Tommy, who was like almost like a little brother figure to him, gets murdered after he figures out about his wife too. Because what happens is he figures out about the actual killer and that he got framed, and so the whole reason his life got thrown upside down, he could have actually just gotten out, and so he goes to the warden, and that gets thrown away. And so now the thing that's been holding over his head this whole time is now back and bigger than ever, and now he's pretty much despair the fact that he could be free and he's not. And then the person he considered like a kind of like a brother figure, little brother figure, is the way they interacted with each other, is murdered now because of that.
Yeah, and it was also, the warden said that Tommy tried to escape, so they had to
kill him.
So they didn't just say like, oh, well, we killed him, you know?
No. They play it off as he tried to escape, but I'm pretty sure everyone had an idea.
I don't know. There was, I mean, Red and Andy were the only people who knew that Tommy knew.
Yeah.
So I think people
I think
people
Andy
could
knew.
believe. Yeah. I think the only people who needed to know probably knew that he killed him, but I feel like to everybody else, Tommy was like a Spitfire kind of, like, you know, young and I've been in prison since 13. This is my lifestyle kind of thing. Hi-ya.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense for him to try and break
Oh, I totally agree. I don't think I think saying everyone knew
Yeah.
is a reach. I agree with you there. I
Yeah.
think Andy knew
Yeah.
and Red knew. So
Yeah.
we as the audience knew. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I get you.
Cuz I mean, I don't think Andy was going to be fooled by that.
Mm-mm.
The guy finally can prove that he's free and then he gets murdered. Um but he then goes, and so now all hope, helping people get their diplomas, his job in the prison, like the him being like he knew he was an innocent man but had no way to prove it, and now he does. Like all of these things just look to defeat him in his aspirations to whatever kept Andy different than the rest of them, like that hope he had that he
Yeah.
talks about throughout the movie, seemed to be gone in that conversation he has with Red, which is why like and then he borrows the rope and they set you up to think he kills himself and then he
Mm.
escapes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful ending.
I will only say the one thing that I completely disagree with about his escape is when he breaks in to the sewage line.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense.
Like how he's able to get in with the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rock was not going to break that
No. I
one
mean,
bit.
maybe if like the pipe had been there for like 100 years, which I mean could make sense because this place has been around for like a bazillion years. But like,
Yeah.
I don't. I just. That's the only thing about this whole movie that I didn't like is that he fit into that pipe somehow, and also made a hole big enough for
To
him
get
to
in.
fit in the amount of time that a thunderstorm was going, because the only thing that he was allowed to do at that point was hit the pipe while thunder
The
and
lightning.
lightning
Yeah.
struck, so that he wasn't like raising a suspicious sound, which completely makes sense. I feel like that's reasonable. The only time he can hit it is when there's a noise. Makes sense. Don't want to draw noise in. But that's a really long storm for a rock to break through a metal pipe, and then for it to also break a hole big enough for a grown man, probably like, yeah, he is a beanpole, like he's a pretty skinny dude in this movie, but he's also like 6'3", 6'4".
He's still a man.
Yeah, he's
Of
tall though.
Yeah, he's tall, and like even being skinny, fitting in a tiny sewage pipe is going to be hard for everyone.
Tim Robbins is 6'5". For a
Man's
6'5"
tall.
dude
Yeah.
to fit into a pipe where only his shoulders, that, I mean, like, that's the only thing that I don't like about the movie, is just that scene. Everything else about this movie I absolutely adore and I absolutely love, but it is just that part where he was breaking through the pipe where I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I can
No.
agree because I didn't even think about him breaking through the pipe in that aspect, but when you brought it up, I agree with you. My issue with that scene was knowing which direction to go.
Well,
Because he looks down the pipe and he looks both directions. But I'm telling you now, sewage pipes don't just go in one cardinal direction and keep going that way.
yeah.
They go up, and even like if he knew, okay, this way's out, this way's in, and then he like because he can look outside the pipe.
Yeah.
Once he's in the pipe could start going that direction and then take a turn.
Oh,
and
yeah.
loop around.
Oh,
and loop in the prison, and I just thought it was a little. It, like I mentioned earlier, it's obviously not one for one realistic.
Oh,
and
yeah, no,
that
it's,
part
it's fiction.
that part of the movie is definitely romanticized. I did appreciate the lightning storm part, like you said, him not drawing attention, but I agree that pipe scene in itself is a little hard to believe. But it's honestly the only issue I have with the movie as well.
Yeah.
And even then, though, I feel like the reward of him going through the pipe made up for it, Like the fact that he had to go through
A mile
was
and a
it?
half of shit.
Yep, a mile and a half of shit, dude. I don't know if I could do that.
I mean, I think you could if you were falsely
Yeah.
convicted for 2 life sentences.
If
Of
I was in his
murdering your
position,
I think you would.
you push through it. I think I
Yeah.
could too, but like, still, the concept of thinking about doing it is.
Oh yeah, no, horrendous.
Oh.
Every second would suck, but
Oh yeah.
in his position, I see no other way. I see no other way out.
Oh, 100%.
Besides a different use for the rope.
Yeah. Which I'm glad he did not take.
Facts.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Real quick, I'll say this movie was notable. I like it. I recommend it. You?
Facts. Oh, same.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the Noted Podcast. We have been your hosts, Daniel and Eric. You can follow us on Twitter at A Noted Podcast and at Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram at The Noted Podcast. You can find us on those websites as The Noted Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe.
That spelling is POOD cast.
Yes.
Podcast.
Podcast. How you doing? And yeah, please just share, like, and subscribe. And turn on that notification bell. And you guys have a fantastic day.
Okay, bye.